Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players Podcast. This is our show for the racing of Saturday, April 26th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornital, back with you. We're going to kick off talking about the return of racing to Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs opening night on Saturday. We've got two guests with us to do just that, both of them returning. First of all, a man who has been on the grounds an awful lot and can't wait to hear what's been the buzz at Churchill Downs as we build up to the massive excitement of everything going to be going on under the Twin Spires next week. I speak of Kevin Kilroy. Kevin, how are things?
PTF, what's up? Thanks for having me on. Things are great. Just sitting here in the turf club, looking at the track, a little bit wet. But the buzz today was Citizen Bull. He got on the track, and that dude was aggressive. He was like a bull, ready to get out there. So on the muscle, and he's catching some people's eyes. We'll see how he is.
Interesting. Maybe we'll check in with you again next week, as we've done in the past, Kevin, about all the horses you've seen and what has been the result of that. Because we've got a lot of coverage coming for our friends at twinspires.com, not least because obviously Churchill meets starting, Derby a week away, but it's also the return of horse racing contest, newest major, the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. You've heard him talk about it on these airwaves before. You've heard him referenced when I talked to Matt Miller about how excited he is about this new major, the KDBC. Darin Zoccali, DZ, what's up? How are people feeling about this Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge? I know horse players are talking about it. You're the man at the center of it. Are you feeling the buzz as far as the contest goes specifically?
Feeling a lot of emotions. I'm feeling excitement. I'm feeling a little bit of nervous energy. A little bit of everything, to be honest with you. We've had some players actually already buy in this week. So definitely take that as a good sign because the contest is not for another 8 days. And we've certainly seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks, the numbers in the feeders and qualifiers really ramp up. So with just 3 qualifiers left to go, opening day at Churchill, Thurby, and Oaks Day, not a lot of opportunity remains to win seats. So we expect these to be hotly contested and filled to the brim. And then whoever wants to buy in on Derby Day certainly can do so. But yeah, I feel great about it. The numbers continue to climb. There's a lot of buzz about it. So all things that we've heard and seen have certainly been positive.
Twinspires.com. That's the place to go to find out more information about the upcoming feeders and qualifiers, as well as the big event itself. Just navigate over to the tournaments tab there. We're going to have much more coverage of it over the course of the coming days. But this big qualifier on Saturday, if you're serious about winning your way in, you got to be playing in this one. We're going to go over the last 5 races on the card. This very likely going to be where the rubber meets the road in this contest. We were talking a little bit about it off air in terms of what a goal number might be. Kevin, as a contest player yourself, I'm presuming you're not eligible to play in this Saturday contest, given your job now. But if you were advising someone about a number that you might need, what would be your starting point, knowing that it all depends on the specifics?
Yeah, this is so key to it all, right? This is something I've learned from Matt Miller, hearing him talk so much, is just having that target, knowing where you're trying to get. I think 2,000 and you're super safe. You might be able to go a little bit lower than that, just seeing for these $800 tournaments in between that sort of 15 up to 2,500 being the range for those top tier ones. So you don't have to win it to get the KDB seat. You just have to get into the top 7 or 8, depending on how many entries there are. So I think 2,000, if you're aiming for that and you miss a little bit, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's an $800 buy-in. Half of that feeds the prize pool. Half is your buy-in for the Saturday event. The big one, $5,000. Again, you can buy your way in, but why not try to win your way in? Go to twinspires.com, navigate over to that tournaments tab. Let's hit these races, my friends. The first one we're going to talk about goes at 6:57 Eastern. Race number 5 at Churchill Saturday is a $20,000 claimer going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. Darin, let's start with you. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, this is one of those pace makes the race kind of events. There's a lot of horses in here that want to come from pretty well out of it, and a couple of key players as well. And I thought there was only 2 horses in here that really show much interest early on, Forge and Fire and Evening News. Of the 2, I probably prefer Forge and Fire. Evening News is a horse that used to have a lot of class to him and has consistently dropped down. Got beat for 15 last time. Forge and Fire's got a couple of decent runs at the beaten claiming level. He's got a win going a 1-turn mile trip at Churchill Downs as well. He's got a couple of minor placings from 5 starts. And I thought his last race, he really got stuck in them behind horses at the quarter pole, which is not going to be a factor here because I think he's going to be laying 1-2 early on. So for me, Forge and Fire, I think grabs hold of the racetrack here and proves pretty tough to catch.
6 and 7, the main numbers for Darin to kick off this late pick 5 on opening night. Kevin, how do you see it? Are you with DZ that this one could be dominated on the front end, or you want to bring in some other numbers to talk about?
Well, so we're going to do that would be the Derby City 6. That's the first leg of that Derby City 6.
Oh, apologies. We'll roll with the Derby City 6.
Yeah,
I
let's
pulled
do
up
it.
the wrong race.
No,
yes,
it's a
race
big
number
20-cent
5, the
wager.
$20,000 claimer. I did
think
not
so.
prep you for that. If you want to punt on it, but if you're ready, let's we can dive in, or we can we
No,
can
I'm ready.
see.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
hit it.
against Carollo Rapido in here. I think we'll take a good amount of money, that Mike Maker class dropper. And I do agree that the 6 and the 7 are definite uses. I like Evening News maybe a little bit more with that outside spot. Seems to be moving forward in a good way. And the bias was wide and off the pace in the last 2 races at Turfway Park. So I think he's been up against it in terms of how that synth track was playing. I think Redfield's interesting. That's one I want to use. The price is going to be there for sure. He was sharp early last time, had a decent late effort, galloped out in second. That was going 6 furlongs, stretching back out. He's been sharp second off the bench, draws well. I think Redfield's interesting.
Interesting. 7 and 1, the main numbers, or are you going to be using that 6 as well?
7 and 1, 2, 5, and 6 would be my Bs.
Okay, I like it. 7 and 1 with 2, 5, and 6 on the backup line as we proceed to the actual start of the late pick 5, leg B in the pick 6. Here we've got Maiden claiming 50s going 6.5 on the dirt. Kevin, we'll keep it with you.
Yeah, so 2 of them on the outside here. I guess not the far outside, but Sinister Smile. I was surprised to see. I try to cap without the morning lines. Surprised to see that he was the at the top there at 7-2. Blinkers come off. Another one who was against the bias there on March 22nd at Turfway, widen off the pace. I thought he was pretty good in that one, and just flattened out at the top of the stretch. Sinister Smile, I think, is interested in here. Also, Daiquiri Sommelier coming out of that Fairgrounds race with Coffee Talk, Global Quote, pretty capable. Also, a good one for Bauer in there. I thought that was a big effort. Used early to clear, kind of got trapped on the rail, but working out sharp recently with Legree. I think Daiquiri Sommelier is a good one here. So 9 and 10 are my A's, 2 and 4 are my B's.
My one note as a bit of a Daiquiri sommelier myself is don't make them too sweet. Classic margarita. You gotta keep it in balance. You got to get that tart element in there as well. 10 and 9, the main numbers. What did you say your backup line was, Kevin? 2 and
4. That Shadow Coast to the front likely, and then Tapakena moving back to the main track.
Darin, let's bring you back in. Are you in agreement with Kevin in this one, or do you have something else you want to talk about?
No, pretty close. My A is Daiquiri Sommelier. I don't think we're getting 10 to 1 here. This race, just none of the horses that have run several times really did much to excite me. All the reasons that Kevin talked about in the debut effort. And I love the speed fade angle, which is what you have here, followed by the drop in class. Al Stall Jr., you got good connections, the Axeman up, and the drop from the maiden down to the maiden claiming 50, I think is big. I think Daiquiri Sommelier is sitting on a really good race. The other one that did interest me was the 4 Tapakena. This horse debuted in that Speakeasy Victory Avenue race. If you remember the name Victory Avenue, you probably watched the Netflix Race for the Crown episode because they talked quite a bit about that one. But that was obviously a key maiden special weight event. Then ran another good maiden special weight, won by BU. They tried turf, laid off, tried turf again. Just not sure we've seen the best of this guy, and he's in for a tag for the first time off a bullet workout, so it wouldn't surprise me if he runs well. He's my B, but this race is going to be a pretty heavy lean for me on the 9 as a potential separator. I'm going to try to maybe get a little bit cute here.
Lots of love and commonality in that race for those numbers, including the 9 and the 4. We'll see how it plays out. Darin, you gave me an opening by mentioning the Netflix show to say if you want more info on that, check out the show JK did on JK Plus One last week, talking to one of the producers of the show, the Netflix show, causing a lot of buzz, and folks might want to dig that. One great way to stay attuned to all the info we've got coming down the pike on the In the Money Media Network. Subscribe to our free newsletter, inthemoneypodcast.com/email, so you don't miss any of this Derby content we've got coming down the line. There's a lot of free stuff over at inthemoneypodcast.com, In the Money YouTube channel, and of course, if you want to listen on the In the Money Players podcast side. We go to straight maidens for race number 7, 3-year-olds going a historically significant distance of 1.25 miles here under the twin spires of Churchill Downs. Darin, how about this one? You got skinny in the last race. Is this one where you can do similar, or do you need to throw a few numbers in the mix?
Well, I mean, again, I only have 1A in this race, and it's the 6 Ashes and Diamonds coming out of a race, maiden claiming 100, where rallied well, going 7 furlongs, and stretching out to 2 turns. Second race back off the layoff, Jose Ortiz for Joe Sharp. Seems to be working well. A lot of horses, again, with a series of tries that not really inspiring me much. I'm against Plaza Q at a short price in here. I do have several Bs, though. Antonia's Flower is a B that I'm going to use, along with the 8 Vino Tiempo. Both of those likely to be potentially rallying from off the pace. But Ashes and Diamonds, for me, comes out of a key race in the debut on the turf at Saratoga. Ran fine off the layoff last time out. And I think is a horse that's lightly raced with upside. So that's my top. So 6 is on the A line, 1 and 8 on the B line.
Great stuff. Kevin, how do you see it?
Yeah, I've got Ashes and Diamonds as a B, but I think that's the right Sharp to be on, right? I mean, comes back after that sprint, debuted going long, had a work in between. You got to think that was sort of a prep, got off a little bit slow in there, forward track. Can we get the distance is a big question. This 1.25 miles is a big part of it. Plaza Q, I think we have a little bit of an excuse. Kind of got joined early, and the pace got prompted. That was a wire-to-wire winner with Heavenly Sunset. Seemed to be a good one. Keeps on working sharp. This one seems to really go well in the mornings. 1.25 miles, I think we could be a little bit loose in here and be able to get the distance. So Plaza Q for me and Churning Bernie are my A's. Another one stretching out. Churning Bernie, Neil Pessin, trained this one for a while. He was always saying the farther, the better. David Jacobson went short with this one, was against that speed bias there on April 11th at Keeneland. And now we're getting back to, I think, the distance that's going to make a ton of sense for this Bernardini filly.
So using some of that institutional knowledge you have there, Kevin, from being around the barns at Churchill, love to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I get both your head-to-head on this favorite and what to do with Plaza Q, and I understand where both of you are coming from, Darin, from a value point of view, how much you want to trust this horse at a short number. But I do see your point, Kevin, might have a chance to shake loose in here. So one, I'd probably use at least defensively. We'll see how the tickets come together for this pick 5 or pick 6, depending on how you're playing it. It continues with race number 8. We've got claiming 50,000 fillies and mares going 1 mile and a 16th. Kevin, what numbers will be on your tickets?
Top pick in here is Life Advice. Joe Sharp's great filly coming in here off the bench and watching the works recently, just moving very, very well, totally in hand and going quite sharp, going big in the gallop out. I think this is one we're going to be ready to roll and to the lead. Maybe needs a lead. I think that is one chink in the armor of Life Advice, but I think we'll get a fair enough price. I do want to use Smooth Ways. I don't know exactly what to do with this Foley training. I mean, Foley's got 3 horses here in the last 3 races that are all ones you gotta consider. But the excuse for February 6th is that inside on the rail part of the course was weird footing. All the good trips were coming closer to the stand side rail, and that's where Smooth Waves was. So Flo maybe got us in a tight spot. That wasn't the best place to be. Maybe a little bit of a weird ride. I think Smooth Waves will get back to it. And if you want to get crazy, I think number 3, Fair Placer for Barry King. This one, a little bit of a bounce there on the 28th. If we can just draw a line through that one and we get back to that form from March 6th at the Turfway, which I thought that was a better than looks run, fits in a big way. So you'll get a good price on the number 3.
Leave it to the guy who spent time in his life anyway from Kansas City to go 9-1-3 in this race at Churchill Downs. Darin,
side of things, baby.
Darin, how about you? Let's hear from the 7-1-8. What do you like?
I don't like the 7. No. My two A's in here are actually a different direction. It starts with the 4 Bred to Run, whose second race off the form cycle, coming out of a couple of starter 50s. Rent 6.5 behind a next out winner. It was a nice one in Bourbon Memory. 2 starts back, has a win going 1 mile over the synthetic surface at Turfway. And I thought ran fine in a tough maiden special weight at Keeneland last fall as well. So I thought Bred to Run for Rudy Brissett was interesting. The 8 Angel of Faith is going to the turf for the first time for Steve Asmussen by Justify, coming in off about a 2.5 month freshening as well. This horse last couple of starts, obviously some questions around that. Does have early speed, can be prominent early on, and maybe the surface switch here is going to perk this one up. They're on my A line. The 1, 3, and 9, ironically enough, are my 3 B horses. So there is some joint decisions there with Kevin, but the 4 and the 8 are on the top part of my ticket.
It's that kind of race where you can mention 3 and you can mention 2 and they'd be different ones. And I think, yeah, maybe more of a survive in advance. Let's get to the feature of opening night. We've got the listed stakes action for these fillies and mares. The Roxalana going 6 furlongs with 200,000 in the pot. Darin, who do you like in the feature?
Yeah, I think the favorite's going to be tough in here, the way the race shapes out. For a sprint of this caliber, there's some speed, but it's not loaded with speed. And I do think Sandy Bottom is going to prove pretty tough on the front end here. It's coming out of some very, very difficult races, including the Grade 1 La Brea, where she actually was fast enough to make the lead on opening day of the Santa Anita meet, made the lead in the carousel, been freshened up for this from Mike McCarthy. I like the 5 furlong moves in preparation for this. Joel Rosario gets on board. So I think Sandy Bottom is definitely going to be tough. If there is another one that I'm willing to include in here, I might include the 5 Mayuchia for Gustavo Delgado, who's also got some pretty decent experience running in races like the Polaris and the Raven Run. Was a good winner at Tampa 2 starts back as well. Last time out, got bumped at the start, had a bit of an excuse that day. It might be one to bounce back. But my lone A is Sandy Bottom. Mayuchia will be on the backup ticket.
A lot of eyes on Michael McCarthy heading into this Churchill meet. See what kind of a start he gets off to. Kevin, how about you? You in lockstep here, or do we want to go head-to-head again?
We're not in lockstep. But Sandy Bottom is when I was back and forth, and you're making a good case for her, Darin, so I might include her too. I mean, I'd almost be willing to single Harbor Springs in here. Similar sort of story with Sandy Bottom. Second start as a 4-year-old. I do love that angle. That was a big effort on the 22nd at Fairgrounds. Looking at the card, Montalcino, a really good one for Cherie DeVoe, ran just 2/10 faster and got 100 buyer. So pretty close to that run from that colt. Harbor Springs working really sharp in here. I think this is the one. I'm interested in Minx Palace. I mean, talk about a horse for the course, 3 for 5. I mean, all the good runs that we've seen from Minx Palace have been at Churchill Downs. The form went way south after that win on the 15th. She surprised people that day for sure, but seems to be training well with just a freak in the morning. And then Lady Moscato, I think you could make a case that she doesn't like slop, and that's what we had there on the March 29th, 0 for 4, and just much slower on a wet track, and a very forward fast track on February 23rd. I thought that she was up against it in terms of that, and her best fits in a big way. I have a 1 on Third Graph there for January 25th, so that's better than any of these, or at least as good as the top. So Lady Moscato, I think you could maybe get into if you wanted to go a little deep. So my B's are Lady Moscato and Minx Palace. Add Sandy Bottom to it because I do like what Darin's saying. But
2, 3, 8 on the B line, 6 on
Harbor
the A line.
Springs. Yep.
We got 1 race left, and we just have 1 minute in which to do it, guys. So we will speed round through this nightcap on opening night. Maiden claiming 100,000, 6 furlongs on the dirt. Kevin, when it comes to all these late picks, how are we going to get paid?
Yeah, I'm going to go out with a single. Studney. Give me Studney. This one I think we'll get our value with. We can use a little bit more of the logicals earlier on and single this one. Moving forward in a great way. That was a big effort last out. I've always liked this one, even before that debut effort. Has always touted himself in the mornings. I think there's talent here. I think they'll sleep on Studney.
Darin, where are you in the lucky last?
I'm using Studney, but this is a race where I'm not a heavy lean. I'm going to take the approach of spread against the favorite, which is Evan on Earth, the horse that I would try to beat all the time. Studney's definitely one off that last race that I'm including. The 2 Outdoor Cat debuting for Rudy Brissett. He doesn't have great numbers debuting a maiden claiming, but on the workouts, this horse could be ready to fire at first asking, and gets into a field where I don't think anything jumps off the page too much at you. So I'm inclined to include that one as well. I'm also include the 7 Where You At on the drop off a race in maiden special at Fairgrounds that I didn't think was that terrible. The 8 Shepherd, the 10 Vino Dominus are also going to be on my ticket. So if I get live here, I'm going to go the old spread against the favorite and try to connect in a big way.
And it's not an inefficient thing to do. When you're cutting out that much of the market, you can use 5 and have tickets that are very intelligently written. I think it's a smart approach. We'll see how it plays out at Churchill on Saturday. Guys, pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Pete.